Today on Treasure Hunting America, we'll meet Norma Larson, a woman who didn't pick up metal detecting until she was 70 years old.
I love doing what I'm doing. I ain't afraid to get my hands dirty. And what you find is always exciting to me. No matter if it's junk, you always want to dig it. And I dig everything.
Then we'll meet Steve Kelly of New York City, who's been finding ancient Roman coins buried in the nation's largest city.
New York's pretty old. It's been here a long time. A lot of the buildings you see now were little villages, or maybe there was just a house where 6 blocks span now. I was in my yard, I was just trying to machine out. I couldn't even believe it. I found colonial buttons.
And finally, we'll talk with Nelson Jacas, a Greek-American who's using his profession to find treasure below the surface of the Atlantic.
I figured there's more artifacts in the ocean than on the land. I did make a lot of nice finds. It's like finding a time capsule.
All coming up on Treasure Hunting America. Hello and welcome to another episode of Treasure Hunting America. I'm your host, Mark Hendricks. For the next half hour, we'll share some amazing stories of everyday treasure hunters across the country. At 70 years old, Norma Larson didn't expect to get into treasure hunting, but after finding a 1793 coin on her own farm in upstate New York, she was hooked.
My husband passed away, it'll be 5 years this year, and I was depressed. But after I bought the metal detector, I seemed like I got real well quick, because I got out in the field and got away from all the pressures and you don't think about nothing when you're in the field metal detecting but what you're doing. Your troubles are all gone. And when I went to the doctor, she told me, "What are you doing to get your health back?" And I told her I took a new hobby up, and she says, "Good medicine." And I got all better, and I'm in perfect health now. What kept me going is finding stuff that was real old and very interesting. To think about how people lived years ago compared to the times now. It's just fascinating. I walked down this driveway right here, and that's where I found that first coin laying right on top of the ground back 1790 something. After that, we found lots of them here, all different. Dates onto it, buckles of all kinds. Old stuff, real old stuff. This is the first coin that I found on my property when I walked into the driveway. It was laying right on top of the ground. This is an 1805 large cent. It was also found on this property. This is a large cent. It's 1810 colonial, and it's found on this property too. I keep the valuable things that I think are really the best value. The other stuff, if it's not in the greatest shape, I get rid of it, I sell it. Dug enough stuff and found enough stuff and sold has made me some side money. I love doing what I'm doing. I ain't afraid to get my hands dirty. And what you find is always exciting to me. I don't care what it is. If that machine goes off and tells, you always want to find out what is in there. No matter if it's junk, you always want to dig it. And I dig everything. A lot of people don't, but I dig everything because it paid off for me by doing that. That's why I keep on doing it. And I will as long as I can walk. I will, because I just love it. I love doing it. Like this. Something right there. Hear it? See? Looks like a nail. And it's down about 8 inches. Right there. Sounds like it. That's what it is. Well, it looks like a hook of some kind. Hey? Sometimes they have a hook like that, you drive it there and it just slides in. You don't like that.
When we return, Norma Larson will show us why hunting in your own backyard is so worthwhile. And we'll meet New York's favorite treasure hunter, Steve Kelly. After finding her 1793 colonial coin on her own property, Norma did additional research on her property and found some very surprising information.
The house was 250 years old when I come here in 1963. I figured it was just an old farmhouse, but to look at it, you wouldn't even think it was a store until I went over to the museum and they had pictures of it over there. For one thing, being a store and having the troops all go through here, they naturally would have stuff around. I figured it was a good spot, really good spot. If you want to find stuff, you look in your own backyard, because that's where a lot of it is, yeah? And people's never looked there. These are some things that I found on my property here. These are bedroll buckles that the troops used to wrap their stuff in and pack. These are the buckles that they have on their uniforms there. Some of them, this is a waist buckle that goes around the waist here. These here, the buttons here, are the ones that goes down the uniforms, down the sides. And there's some musket balls that I found here.
With so few years into this hobby and having found so much, there's one item she remains on the lookout for, something that's very unique.
My one desire is to find a George Washington button. Really is. I want to find one of them, and they're worth a lot of money. Yeah. But I just would like to have it for a keepsake for myself. Yeah. For the time era and stuff. I think I've found an extra lot for the time that I've been there. You know, there's people that's hunted for years haven't found as much as I've found. You know what I mean? It's not over yet. Yeah.
Steve Kelly isn't a typical treasure hunter, but this Irish New Yorker has a passion for the hobby like few others and has found some amazing items.
I always had this interest in finding things. I always walk looking down on the ground. You know, I'm just one of those people I just like finding things. And I went out, I called a guy on Long Island. He went out to his house, he gave me a demonstration, and I bought my first whites detector. Well, what keeps me going is, I mean, you know, when you get into metal detecting, you become addictive. You know, every find is a thrill. And each find is like a gift to you for your effort and for your patience in a hobby. I do this here because to relax. But I mean, when you really think about life, you know, I mean, life's very noisy and time consuming, you know, I mean, you never get really no time for yourself. Now, when I hit a beach, as soon as I'm out at the beach or I go out to a land site, that's my time. And I don't let nothing interfere with that. This is going to be one of the only hobbies that's actually going to pay for itself. I mean, when you get out there and, you know, you start finding them coins and other cool finds, this is going to add up right away to equal the price that you pay for your machine and then just keep going from there. Here's a little show of some of the things. This is just a small portion of what I have. And this is just the gold. This is what makes you crazy. This is what makes you keep coming back. And I mean, of course, you know, it's always cool, but I'm more into like relic hunting, finding artifacts and everything. These were found right in New York City. People say, how could coins, Roman coins, 2,000 years old, get in New York? Because the buildings you see there today weren't there yesterday. There might have been small farms or something. Somebody might have brought them over from Europe when they migrated here. And when they got here, there were no banks or nothing, so that maybe they buried them. There's a little something for everybody in metal detecting. Here's a whole jar, just all silver coins, every type of silver coin. You know, everything you can think of is in here. And this is, again, a small portion. This here site's from about 1770s, 1750s, around there. And supposedly they had British troops that was on this property, or colonial troops that were on this property. So it's potentially a hot site, just takes a little time to get orientated with it, get the machine working right. Well, most targets in an area like this here would be 4 to 5 inches, maybe 6 inches down. Usually what I'm looking for now is buttons. Looking for buttons, they're usually brass. If they're brass or copper, they're going to come up with like a 56, maybe a 46 number. Buttons is a good sign because that identifies the regiment they were with, whose side they were on. A lot of information. See, this here is probably a shallow hit. It's not going to be too deep. But I still have to take up a good portion of the dirt with the plug so that when I put it back, it grows right back in place. Okay. Got here coming up with this stuff is a piece of pottery. Pottery's always a sign. It could have been maybe garbage they buried here. Could have been a dump. Okay, let's try this one. It's a button from a raincoat or rain gear. Actually, I don't see no naming on it. But indication that something was here. Maybe a clothesline, maybe someplace where they dry their equipment. Yeah, something's coming up. Well, this one's take back to the house. Check it out. Put our plug back. Nobody even knows we were here. Now that's good. We got something out of here at least.
When we return, Steve Kelly will share about why New York City is such an amazing place to hunt for treasure. Don't go away.
New York's pretty old. You know, it's been here a long time. And a lot of people did come, and a lot of people left. A lot of the buildings you see now were little villages, or maybe there was just a house where 6 blocks span now. And it's hard to believe, but you can actually go to these locations, and sometimes, not every time, but there are times, I actually went onto sites and found artifacts that is still in my own yard. I live in one of the oldest neighborhoods in New York. I live in Maspeth, Queens. It was settled in 1635. Now, my avenue is Caldwell Avenue. It has a British name. That tells you, these are all hints you get. This is going to tell you it's old. Now, I was in my yard, I was smelling it, just trying a machine out. I couldn't even believe it. I found colonial buttons. Colonial buttons. Now, I can identify them because I have the literature and the books to look them up. I just read a book, History with Pick and Shovel, which is one of my rare books. Excellent book. It tells about all the local forts from the Revolution that were in New York. These people did an archaeological dig for the New York Historical Society in the 20s. They located these forts, they dug them up, and the book is just full of artifacts that they found. I go to these sites and I actually find stuff from the Revolution. And you're actually on the spot where these people were. These are the founding fathers of America. And these artifacts, I mean, what good are they going to do me sitting in a jar or in a drawer? So I give them to the old stone house. They made a beautiful display with them. The children go there, they tell them about it, and they show them actual, this is how these people live.
One of the special events that happens for treasure hunters in New York City is when the beaches are replenished not by nature, but by machines.
The sand, of course, through erosion, cuts the beaches down to nothing sometimes. I mean, you get a good nor'easter, it's going to get the beach out. And you can actually see stuff, cables and things that you're laying right on top of, but the sand covers, you don't see it. But that's when you're down to the clay. So now the Army engineers or whoever it is comes out there, and they come with these big ships with these pumps, and they drop one lead into the bottom of the ocean, and they actually suck the sand. And this sand is pumped onto the beach, and then it's spread, the giant hoses, I mean, they're even like a fireman. These are giant hoses. And they have a machine that actually aims it, and they just keep spreading back and forth. And then when they're done, then these here graders come in. These are the things they use on the highways to level the ground, and bulldoze, and they spread it out and even it all out. And that's where we got our new beaches in New York. They were pumping sand, but they hit a dump. We were finding 2-cent pieces, 3-cent pieces. We were finding, I mean, all old coins. There were people walking the dogs were finding coins. There were buckles, there were buttons from the municipal police department in New York. That's 1850s. But that was good. That was a good hunt.
Steve Kelly isn't focused on amassing a huge collection of items. In fact, his favorite thing is to give away his artifacts to small museums around the New York City area.
There are a lot of artifacts that we do find. You know, you come across things. I mean, I come across shirt links. And again, I identify these items. But I don't believe in really keeping them. You know, I mean, what good are they going to do with my drawer? The museums, I like to give, you know, I give them old stone houses. It was an old house in Brooklyn. I donated a whole display to them. And when I go there, it's nice to see my stuff hanging out. I mean, it is, you know, it's cool. But I'm glad to see that these people get some use out of it.
Even with a wonderful collection of treasure he's found over the years, there's still one item that eludes him.
The gold coin. You know, I mean, it's been elusive. It's trying there, but I'm still young. I'm never going to give up. I'll get it one day, I imagine.
When we return, we'll meet Nelson Jikas, a man who's capitalized on his career as a professional diver to find treasure in the Atlantic and Caribbean oceans. Welcome back to Treasure Hunting America. Born to Greek parents, Nelson Jikas was raised in the United States with a passion for adventure and treasure hunting. As a child, he got his start by hunting with his hands and his eyes.
Then I used to go digging for bottles and going in back of old houses. They used to throw their old trash away in the houses. I used to dig up a lot of the trash and used to find some good treasures that way. And then I got interested in metal detecting. And I purchased a detector and went out metal detecting and went to parks, old schoolhouses, houses being knocked down, old swimming holes. Some good finds came out of them. It's like a time capsule. What kept me going is there was a lot of places to go and there was a lot of historical finds to find, and there's a lot of history here in New Jersey. A lot of pirates that came here and buried their treasures. Right here, right now, we're at a Revolutionary War site. George Washington was here. Part of Civil War was here too. So you have a lot of things that were going on in New Jersey. I figured there's more artifacts in the ocean than on the land. So I figured we're running out of spaces on the land, so I better go back in the water. And I've been to Bimini. I've been to Florida. I've been to the Caribbean, found a lot of unusual things that I wouldn't find on land. Underwater hunting is very difficult because sometimes the current moves a lot of the stuff, and it could be in 5 miles there and 20 miles next week or whatever, so that's difficult. Your levels can run low and all that stuff, and you try to stay, you know, 10, 15 feet. Your visibility could be like 50, 60 feet, that's it. So it's very dirty and you can't see what you're doing down there. Caribbean waters are much better because you can see the fish, you can enjoy it down there more, and you can see a nice wreck. What we have here, which I found underwater, this is a Chinese oil lamp. It's made of pottery. I found it all in pieces. I glued it back together, and it's very interesting looking. It's got the little hole where you light the oil in, and I would say it's from 16th century. Here we have a piece of pottery, Chinese, I believe. It's got a fish on it, a lot of patina on it, and I would say around 1500s. Here we have a bunch of coins that I found. Some are Chinese and some are French. It's a French coin, which I found. The best piece I found is called a relic ring. They used in the 1400s. It's a ring that had a saint in it, and the saint is still inside of it, and if you shake it, you can hear the saint.
Unfortunately for treasure hunters, they can't just go out to dive for large gold caches and keep them without reporting it. State laws are very specific about finding artifacts off the coast, and there is a process for retrieving them lawfully.
If I found a ship, I would take it to the right agencies in the government and ask for a permit so I could bring up the ship. And if it was okay, I would get the permit. And I think 40% would go to the government of New Jersey and whatever I have. Sometimes they buy it off you, and they'll give you whatever it's worth. So either way you gain, but it takes a lot of work and takes a lot of research, and you know, you have to have investors because it costs you a lot of money to bring it up. If you do find a historical artifact, you have a choice to either donate it to the museum or give it back to the state, and they will give you compensation for it, like recognition, or found by Nelson Jacobs or found by so-and-so, and put it in the museum. They won't buy it off you. You'll donate it, and they give you either they give you a write-off or they'll give you recognition for it. That's all. It's a good hobby. It's a good exercise to get out of the house on the weekends or whatever time you're off. It's a good way to get outdoors. If you don't find nothing, it's still a good hobby, because you're outdoors, you're in history, and you may find something. It may pay for your lunch, or it may pay for your day, whatever. It may pay for the rest of your life. I would like to find a treasure chest full of gold coins or silver coins. I mean, I don't care. As long as it's old, I don't care what I find. Oh, gosh. I didn't even hit penny.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Treasure Hunting America. Be sure to join us next time for more stories of everyday treasure hunters all across the country. Until next time, I'm Mark Hendricks. Happy hunting! Treasure Hunting America is sponsored by White's Electronics, manufacturers of the world's finest metal detectors. For over 50 years, White's has been building metal detectors in the USA for treasure hunters around the world. For more information, visit their website or call the number on your screen.